Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tarnished Bronze, where we're looking at the Bronze Age and Bronze Age sensibility based comics. Now, Patrick, we have Legion of Superheroes, Volume 4, Number 2 here today. And it's all happening 5 years later, right?
Yeah,
Or it's not happening.
yeah, I was gonna say in this issue, I feel like not that much happens, but it's getting there, right? Also, I know you don't really care so much about the plot now because you've got what you've been waiting for on this channel. I think probably the reason why this channel was really started, and that is pouches. People probably thought that it had to do with chairs and sort of seating arrangements
Yeah,
in
yeah.
superhero and supervillain headquarters. It was really always about pouches, pouches and belts, belts
I'm
on
also
pouches
very
on
partial
belts on
to
pouches.
a shoulder pad, a Judge Dredd shoulder pad, or if you're really nerdy, a 40K shoulder pad. That's what gets you up in the morning. Just getting built enough to fill up one of these suits is my main goal, and obviously Keith Giffen's main goal as well in life. He just wants to look at Lobo there. He's got the traps that will let you fill out one of these suits.
Pouches just drape. I have to admit, I'm not as big of a fan of a pouch. And full disclosure, I'm well past issue number two now, in my reread. It is getting better, so that's good. But I thought that this read through that maybe I would find the art more appealing. And I have to say I just sort of, and so it's included in this issue, but even going forward, I just find it a bit distracting.
I do love the SF of all of the covers look really science fiction to me. I mean, the covers are really giving you all of this stuff. Like, you can look at all the little electrical cables and that's in the background of the cover. I'm not seeing so much science fiction in the actual book as what I sort of got the impression of just from my gestalt of just leafing through these books back in the day. And so one thing that like I do notice from the issues themselves is like the world looks lived in, but it doesn't look as SF as what I would imagine. Aside from the interlac and some of the tech and stuff, it's not quite as it's not quite as bold as what I thought it was. It's more of a ramshackle future, and I know we're on different planets and so on and so forth. But I think one of the Legion things that I was looking forward to getting away from in this series was the fact that they're basically just UN Boy Scouts, and we never actually got to see as much of how does this society work, how does these worlds actually work beyond the really superficial. So I think we're getting there, but we're just getting there really, 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 really slowly. Um, and so the text pages here are dealing with some stuff. If issue one is all about the world, I think issue two is filling us in on some of our familiar people. And so it seems like Phantom Girl is killed, or that she's actually sent back to the Legion series, right? Is that
Yeah.
is
Two quick points. One is
okay?
I think part of the reason for the technology, I can't speak for the art decision, but one thing we need to remember is that the United Planets and sort of the civilization has collapsed. So a lot of the technology has kind of been dumbed down. So maybe that might be one of the reasons why you're having that feeling.
Yeah.
Like I said, the art is a little bit different, but there is a little bit of a reason why some of the technology and some now, and also like you said, different planets. We are on Rimbor here, which is sort of a little bit more gritty, kind
It's a
of
pleasure
dirty.
world, right? The
Yeah, well, and lots of smuggling and
okay.
crime, organized crime. Very, definitely known for organized crime. So I just wanted to point that out. And also to your point about it being slow, it's it's a little shocking for it to be the first, say, the first two. Issue one was a little bit more fast paced, and it was still slow. Issue two really slows down, and Yeah, issue three. I was trying to remember. I did reread my notes. Issue three is maybe a little bit more exciting than issue two, but also very slow. Now, after issue four, things speed up.
Yep,
I
yep,
felt like, and I'm just kind of a little bit surprised that that was the choice. And we'll talk more about that when we do issue four, I think, because that's where things really change. And I
yep.
definitely have some questions about why certain decisions were made. Now, back to your point. Yeah, the issue begins with a very brief history of the Legion. Oh, no, that's issue one. This one, the text pages are talking about Phantom Girl. Apparently, she was killed. Like you said, we actually know that she was shunted into the past. That was later retconned. So, I can't even remember when or how they went about that. But at this point in DC history, Phantom Girl, our Phantom Girl, is in the past with Legion, the actual Legion 89, I think,
And real
90.
our friend Real Docs and the main man Lobo, right?
Yes. And Garen Beck, I think, is
Yeah.
and Balor and all these people. So like I said, later on, that sort of retconned, and we find out that the Phantom Girl from that period is actually not our Phantom Girl, but let's not even get into that. So yes, for all intents and purposes, Phantom Girl is alive. But we don't know that, and she's in the distant past. Also, as our resident Legion expert, I was actually very surprised to see this reference to an affair with Starboy. I don't think that that is hinted at anywhere in the Silver Age comics. But I will say, I've been reading the letter columns, which I'm sure you have too, because I
Yeah.
know you really enjoy that, for the future issues. And one somebody wrote in and said, "Oh, that must have been a typo." And they gave some vague reference to sort of Adventure Comics, whatever it was, 247 or something like that. I'm not buying it. And that's one of the problems that I have. I do like that the Legion is a fan service comic. It always has been to a degree. But as I think you've intimated before, it feels like the beer bombs are just taking it a little too far at times. I hate to be too critical of creators because they're out there creating. And I do like and also they're doing it with Keith. So it's very difficult to discern who made certain decisions.
He's
But a
also
lot
a
of these
big
sort
time
of
fan. They're all of them are big time fans. So let's not get that. Like they love this property. They love these characters, or most of them. I'm not gonna say, oh, I love them better than you. I just mean they do some strange choices that maybe you and I would disagree with.
and
I'm
they're
happy
just
we've got the yeah,
some of them are such reaches, in my humble
yeah, yeah,
opinion. Also, instead of, I understand that this is supposed to be a departure, but this is what I was realizing as I was reading further. And this week, in fact, I think one of the problems I have is this is a departure from the previous Legion, but it almost feels like an overzealous attempt to put their stamp on the Legion
yeah.
by really throwing in the kitchen sink, so to speak, especially with a lot of these sort of retcons of things that aren't really shown in the comics as far as in my opinion. Again, oh, this character had a complete change in personality in the 80s. And I'm like, well, I've read all those comics and I'm sure that they have too. I don't really pick that up. Or there was some panel somewhere that made them think that Phantom Girl could have had an affair with Starboy. It seems like unnecessary and kind of too much. And when we're relaunching a product and it's already going slowly, I don't know that we need those extra details detracting from getting into the meat of the story.
I think, Patrick, we're violently agreeing that we could have had the same plot, the same arc. We're going to be revealing who's in charge of all this stuff sometime later in this issue. We could have had all these things happen with characters that we're a little bit more familiar with, like the usual Ultra Boy and the normal Chameleon Boy, and so on and so forth, and not had any of this jarring, like sort of uh, buttressing up of almost anger towards the creators about the characterization of these well-defined characters. We could have thrust them into a new scenario. We could have done a pseudo adult Legion, like a growing up Legion story. We could have had these familiar faces in totally different scenarios, and these all of these wars and the Bay of Bengal invasion or whatever it's called. All of these things could have happened with characters that we're just a little bit more in touch with, especially given Levitz has just written 100 issues of these characters in quite a coherent sort of manner. So I am pleased though that we're getting a new character to kind of view this world through, and so I'm a big fan of Connor. I really like her. I like the dynamic with Ultra Boy. I kind of like how maybe the two immature people are kind of together rather than that sort of Wolverine and Kitty Pryde dynamic. We have basically two Kitty Prydes. That to me makes this aspect of it work. So to cut a long story short, if Legion 1 is the world, Legion 2 is introducing it to the characters, and some of their personalities have changed in ways that is inconceivable to the readership. And that, I think, is what is upsetting you. To me, I would have just loved to be playing in this world that's so beautifully crafted here in these 2 pages with some characters that we knew. Now, Patrick, have we been seen Silvervale before, the company that they're trying to sort of swindle? And have we been to Skylaria before? Are
Oh,
these
Sklar.
okay?
Sklar. Okay, so Kono is a Sklar raider. Sklar and it's sort of a female society. I don't even know if they have males. And it has been referenced probably I feel like maybe around the 70s. Sklarian raiders were a thing. So that's where Kono, I love her coloring. That is very typical for that type of alien. Will you go back one? Now, see, one of the issues, actually, the eye on the right side
Okay,
is so good.
yeah,
Third panel of the
yeah,
middle, that looks so good. It's a shame that actually the face on the left is so much less kind of troll-like. It almost is like more time has been spent. Once we get to the Laurel Gand issues, the women really all look like the trolls that you used to put on the end of your pencil and
maybe
roll the
they're not
pencil till the
looking at
hair
the
goes.
faces, Patrick. That's the thing.
So the other thing that I really had a problem with the art, and it's of its time, right? I mean, I have the same problem with Thor around this time, is Ultra Boy has this ridiculous like mullet, rat tail, pompadour. Like I just don't. Yeah, it's all a little bit much. But yes, we have been to Sklar before. We've been to Rimbor, so we have this background. One of the references, though, people love Kono too, by the way. This is sort of a well-known thing. Even today, people clamor for her to come back. And I actually do. I thought that her characterization, being a new character, this is exactly how you introduce a new character. How does she relate to the existing characters? Give her an interesting power set. She's got a very strong personality. I mean, she could have a very weak personality, but whatever it is, we need to know what it is
Yeah,
and put it out there. And she works really well as a new character.
yeah, yeah. I actually really enjoy this style of art I'm in. So this is a Keith Giffen is great at doing styles as he can change it up. I happen to like this kind of like homage to the Judge Dredds of the 1970s. This reads like the future to me, even though it's sort of this is over 30 years old now, this comic, right? But this reads to that the future that ain't what it used to be. So the one that we want is utopia, which is I think Greek or for nowhere. This is the one that we get.
Dystopia.
Yeah, yeah. So that this all tracks kind of really well for
Oh,
me.
you also ask about Silver Ale. Silver Ale is sort of just a throw-off product that the Legion would maybe throw a couple back.
Okay.
And so it'd be referenced just like Kono juice was also something that they drank, which is kind of interesting that her name was Kono. I don't know if that's a playoff or is it maybe that's not her real name and that's just what they call her because maybe that's what she drinks. I don't know, or I'm not really sure, but I have kind of wondered that. I never really did the research to find
So
out that I
so
wanted
we
to
have
mention
the
too.
flock of seagulls rat tail mullet in full flight.
It's just a bit much. They all have such high hairlines too. You'll notice all the guys, Ron Vidar and Rock Kryn are almost indistinguishable to me as a longtime Legion connoisseur, and they both have hair that looks like it starts at their crown and kind
Yeah,
of comes forward. I don't really like that. One thing I wanted to mention though, you mentioned, that Levitz has written 100 issues, very well received, super fan following. That's dovetailing into 5 years later. And I think that's also, I hadn't put my finger on it, but I think that's also one of the things that has annoyed me a bit with the Beer Bombs treatment is that they're reaching back to the Silver Age and the 70s with these references and these throw-offs. But it's almost like they're skipping over the mid to late 80s as if they didn't happen, and those characterizations were so strong and so well received and so ingrained in the public. Now granted, it's been 5 years, so people are going to change, but it's almost as if they're going so far back to these minuscule details from Silver Age tales or like the early 70s, maybe at the expense of what we really had which was an established product. So that's, I think, kind of annoying.
yeah.
Not
I
to be too
think it's
negative.
a missed opportunity. And so Patrick, is Silver Ale, the corporation, are they controlled by sort of the dominators, or are they control like,
I
are
think they're just
they
a core. I think this is just an essay on corporate like America,
okay?
maybe
Yeah,
not America, but knowing Giffen, yeah, probably right. So where right now we've got Ultra Boy who's returned to his home world and he's leading a smuggling ring,
yeah.
and they're undercutting the Silverdale Corporation. So what does the corporation do? What any good corporation does? They put a hit out on Ultra Boy and Kono, right? They're just going to eliminate the competition, and this is sort of the kind of corporate, like anything goes atmosphere that we find ourselves living in today. So,
Yeah, yeah.
the art reflects life, life reflects art, and I think that's what we're seeing.
Okay, so yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was a more Machiavellian thing behind that rather than just the bottom dollar. And these people aren't messing around. There's other things that are going on as well. So, we're checking in with a lot of these characters. I do like these little vignettes. Is that Tellus as well in that?
It looks like it. It's hard to tell for sure because other people of his race would look like that.
Okay,
Um, it definitely could be. And then the one that he's talking to is a Protean, right?
yeah,
So we know Prody from being Chameleon Boy's pet. By the way, love the 9 panels. We're fully into the 9 panel pages. I think this one, as they go forward, there are very few exceptions. I can't remember if one was as consistently 9 paneled, maybe, but it really works, and it really allows a lot to happen in some of these issues. Now, like I said, in this issue, it doesn't really feel like a whole lot happens, and the plot isn't really pushed forward that much.
no.
But in some of the later issues, it kind of blew my mind how much stuff was happening in such a short amount of pages.
I am just going to put it out there. Once we do issues 5, 6, and 7, I'm thinking you open with them, and then these ones fill in the bits that you missed because
Yeah.
that has a bit more oomph. Yeah, and like I said, we're checking in. Each of these first three issues seems to only focus on two or three characters. So the first one, obviously, we have Chameleon Boy and he's trying to get the band back together. This one is mostly Kono and Ultra Boy. So we're getting focused on each one's individual sort of saga here. Now, this one seems really cool. I like the robots. I like the whole kind of thing that they've embroiled themselves in, and we're getting some personality development. But it seems like this could have been just done some sort of different way, Patrick. Like we could have had a double-sized opening issue and got some more of this stuff in there. And once again, I'm a big fan of these 9 panel grids, especially so Keith Giffen can do different scenes in the same panel. So he can do the long shots, the close ups, like it would be incredible. It's already monotonous because you've got the 9 panels. It would be incredibly monotonous had you not had someone who's able to shake the art up, even within this really defined boundary. And so I am really enjoying the fact that I'm getting so much story. I'm getting nine, like the equivalent of 2 pages basically in every page here. And
Hmm.
that might contribute to the fact that it's so slow. These are long reads. And then by the time you read the letters column to understand what the hell happened in the episode, you've been doing this for 45 minutes. So I thought here would be a good pause. So the first part is Ultra Boy and Kono's trials and tribulations against the corporations. Is this in canon, this Sun Boy Siobhan relationship on the left here?
Yeah, no, Siobhan, as far as my memory goes, and it's pretty good for this time period, Siobhan was Element Lad's steady girlfriend for many,
Okay,
many
yeah.
years.
So that tracks, and then
Now,
this is
Dirk was
unrelated.
a notorious Lothario,
Yeah,
right? But there was really no indication that they actually had sort of any sort of relationship. I
I,
mean, the fact that he may have it wouldn't be shocking that he had flirted with her or something
I
like
think
that.
that's a great backup where they go on a date just so he gets his comeuppance with someone in one of those latter day volume 3 issues. That's a fantastic, like, how they sometimes have the 7 page backup. I think that's a really good story on that. So I just wanted to clarify if that was just like the head canon of the Bierbaums, or if this was something that is going to happen down the pike. And I think Siobhan will become a more major character. I have this beautiful cover. I think it might be somewhere in the 20s or 30s where it's like a romance comic and it has
Hmm.
Siobhan on it. So I'm looking forward to reading that at some point. And then Cersei and Sunboy here, the kind of like veil is slipping, and this is not the sort of stable interaction that one might think is built to last. This kind of seems like a marriage of convenience. It seems a marriage of convenience of whoever Cersei is working for, and and like they're all just embroiled in a real 2025 conspiracy. Patrick, it
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah, now, when you said, I remember vaguely that backup issue where some boy goes on a date. That's with Gigi Quizimano, right?
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah.
other science police, and
Oh,
she
okay,
really kind of puts him in her place.
yeah,
Now, Gigi and which, by the way, this week I didn't tell you personally, but I actually just watched for the first time the musical from the 1950s, Gigi.
okay,
Very problematic. Kind of entertaining. I feel like Lerner and Lowe really ripped themselves off. They could maybe sue each other for
okay,
ripping off My Fair Lady, but they also created that. So, but just as a side note. But anyway, Gigi or Gigi, whichever way you want to say it, she's a colleague of Siobhan, but I don't think she ever strayed from Element Lad, as far
okay,
as I know. But yeah,
yeah,
Cersei's involvement, and it almost feels like one of the things that I think makes these a little bit more confusing and dense is we've we have so many changes and so many established characters, but they've changed, and let's say that's okay. But then we are throwing in new characters maybe making them less than background characters, and it's not really clear why
yeah,
necessarily or
yeah,
what purpose they
yeah.
serve. And so it seems a little cluttered, right? We've got Celeste Rockfish, which we keep on calling her Rockford because that's so hilarious. We've got Cersei, we've got Loomis, and they're going to need more characters, right? But whereas Kono has an established, we know what her relationship is to the other characters, we know that she has powers, we know what
I
her
could,
personality is like. These
uh,
other characters, and I understand that they're building a mystery, as Sarah McLachlan might sing, but for me, that part is maybe not quite clicking as well as it can, and maybe will.
so one of the things is this, I'm just bringing these 2 panels in because everything is starting to coalesce. So we've got all these individual stories going on, and I think this whole Cersei and Sun Boy and whoever they're working for thing is going to coalesce as to the main villain of the whole 5 years later. One thing that I was never confused about is Conno's voice in the captions or in the captions or in the sort of narrator. What is infuriating me about these books is we have the full use of color. We could have color coded everyone who is known to the readers verbiage in the panel captions. Now, because Cersei, for reasons that escape me, is wearing an orange theater wig, and we've got the same. This is like a direct panel. These two pages actually are opposite each other, and then we've got Siobhan, who is also like a redhead or flame head person. That is infuriating me with the fact that the captions don't delineate who the hell is talking, as well as
Have
what
you
they.
noticed in later issues, it's almost like the captions are color coded, but not consistently? They do
Correct.
change colors on future issues, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, they're finally doing that. But then I reread it and I was like, no, I don't think that they're color coded for the characters. They just change colors sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's even more confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last sort
And
of thing
so
here is.
back to
Sorry.
Cersei though. So she's wearing this wig to because Dirk is in love with Siobhan and they're playing off that. They're role playing, I guess. I you know what? When I read it, I don't even know that I bothered to think about it.
Yeah, no, now it just seems a bit more sordid and seedy than what I originally put it on there because the confusion. Now, are we meant to read more deeply in this? Should we start an online forum of all of this stuff, Patrick?
I
Yeah,
think it's definitely sex coded, whereas before I thought maybe she was because she's leaving, right? It looks like she's getting dressed, so maybe she's getting dressed, but it looks like almost post-coital, as we might say, right? And so I naturally assumed that maybe she was disguising herself as Siobhan. For what
yeah.
reason, I don't know. But now I'm thinking maybe she's doing it for Sunboy's kicks. I don't know. It's difficult to say. But like you said, a lot of it is very open-ended, and I know that it's
It's
meant to be mysterious, but
sometimes there's a difference between mysterious and inscrutable. I actually like this. I like these callbacks. I like he's got that badge there. He's really mulling things over with his awesome rat tail. It's both a rat tail and a mullet. It's got all of the things that you would ever want in hair. Um,
it is
Once
very
again,
Thor.
and these aren't coherent color codings of the captions because I read this again, went back. Oh, who's talking in yellow? Who's talking in pink? Not related, like the captioning here to previous pages. Again, just infuriating. What is good is we have the reveal. Now, Patrick, I'm going to lean on you heavily. Like, Roxas looks like a Joker cosplay dude with a
And
pretty, like,
and he never was. I don't know why they've made him this foppish
so
dandy.
I kind of like his foppish looks. That works to me really well in a science fiction setting. Now, this is a deep cut, but now we have a target for our vitriol. Like now we know sort of who to go up against, at least for another few issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we finally understand from the first book why there were 16 different types of internal
Yeah,
dialogue. Now we
that's
know
why
that
I
it was
think this could have
internal.
been a double-sized issue, and we could have got this rather than like I don't know what it would have been like reading this month to month, Patrick. I don't know how
The
you could.
Ultra the Ultra Boy stuff could have been condensed too. We didn't need to be on Rimbo for so long. We didn't need as many. I understand that every comic has to have a battle and that sort
Yeah,
of thing, but that definitely could have been fewer pages, in my humble opinion. And I think we could have gotten the plot moving forward. We want to jump into this, right? And we
yeah,
want to set the stakes, and it was just a little slow.
yeah. So my pros for this issue is Ultra Boy and Kono, great saga. I could have had the other stuff as just little B plots leading to a bigger thing, but that would have required Roxas to be um, revealed in the last issue. So now we've kind
Mhm.
of like got some strange reveals going on. What I will say is good is the hard cuts. Now, if we had hard cuts from like scenes to scenes and from loving scenes into these ultra violent scenes, I really like how that unsettles the reader. Like, I don't
Hmm.
know what's going to happen next in this issue. I got to find out. It passes that. Do I want to read more test? But the thing that really, I think, it kills the momentum, both figuratively and literally, is we're just drip fed this stuff. Um, does drip feeding seem like a pretty valid criticism to you, Patrick? Like,
Pull the plug.
yeah, 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 yeah.
No, 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 you're exactly right. And like I said, I really thought, oh, I have X number of issues to go through, and I love the Legion, and I told you before I had planned at some point in my life to do a reread because I thought I would like 5 years later more this go around, and maybe I do. But I thought, oh, damn, this is going to be tedious, right? But like I said, I'm further along now, and the pacing definitely picks up in a positive way. Now, there's still inscrutability. There are still decisions that you scratch your head about. There are questions. I know editorial had a say in some of this stuff, and we'll get into that in future episodes. There's definitely a couple of issues that will really be digging into that. There's just no way that you can do the issue without it. But yeah, I've gotten to a point where I'm wondering, do we throw 1 through 3 out with the baby in the bathwater, or it's kind of confusing to me if they just almost had to start over. I don't know.
I don't know. For what it's worth, I think this is an improvement because we have some definite action. The Ultra Boy saga is kind of like really cool with Kono. I love that sort of stuff. Like, if you want to book in the future smugglers against a future dystopian corporation kind of is right up that alley, right? It's just that the
Very
fact
of the
that,
moment.
yeah, I think that works pretty well, and we get the new characters, and we get some villain reveals, and we get a face heel turn from Sunboy, all that sort of stuff. I think it's an improvement on issue one, just simply because of that Ultra Boy saga. What about you, Patrick?
I'm just glancing at my notes for one, because it's very similar. I feel like it's going to hit around the same spot. I think I like the text pages on the first one better, but yeah, I feel like one, there was a dullness to it. Maybe Kono makes this issue better by herself, which is she's doing the heavy lifting
That's
here.
not
I
nothing. Yeah,
I like how it was that.
that's not nothing. Like,
Yes. Oh no,
yeah,
I agree. And the villain reveal. Look, I like Kono the first time I read through this. Not as much as people are crazy about her. I mean, people
okay.
really like this character. I never really liked her that much. This go around, she is something that I am enjoying more than the first time. So that's cool for me. So yeah, I agree. I'm gonna have to agree with you that I do think it is better than number one. I don't think it is as good as heavy metal.
Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna slot it above number one.
Yeah,
Now, what I
yeah.
want is, I know that Youngblood is being released by Rob Liefeld with all new characterized like captions and stuff, but with the same art. I want DC to redo this, like, just use all of the same page, like use all of the same art, but make it all make sense, please. I will pay a premium. I'll even buy those crazy big issues if you choose to release it in the giant size format, because I think just some of the misfires that now with computer coloring, we could easily just make all of the captions like the right color, or even put the Interlac logo for every character in the corner of the caption. Does that make sense to you, Patrick? Like, we
Mm.
could remix this, and
Yeah,
we
because
would,
it does make it difficult, and there are some, and like I said, I accept the art. I love Keith Giffen, but I do like his other styles a little bit more than this particular one. But there are definitely panels in some of these comics that I literally have no idea what's happening. I know there's action. I know something's getting smashed or slammed or
yeah,
something. I can't tell what or who it is or what's there. There are definitely details and I mean, I'm really trying. It's like I'll go back through and really kind of try to
yeah,
figure it out, and then I just give up and I just move on. I think, well, I'll figure it out later, based on the damage that the character shows later
yeah.
on or something.
Maybe we do need those oversized things so we can see the art with a bit more accuracy, and we can probably have someone do. a few insert a few new more full page spreads or something in this whole thing. But I think this is one of the things where you could really remix this and make it into a masterpiece rather than kind of like a curiosity, which maybe it is now. I really love it. It's definitely, well, right now it sits in our top 20. It's not bad. It is worth investigating. And one of the things on this channel is we've probably all read the Great Darkness saga and so on and so forth. We've all read Dark Phoenix and all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there that it might really float your boat, but you might not just know about it. And so thanks, Patrick, for sharing some of this on the channel with me. We will be back, I think, soon for issue 3, some other Legion stuff, some interstitial Avengers, all that good stuff. Justice League Detroit, maybe not so good. So like, follow, subscribe, and we will see you in the near future. What is the Legion of Superheroes? It's the history of the future, right?
It's 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see you in less than that.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.